What is good, guys? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at last night's UFC fight night, Dos Anjos versus Fiziev, however you want to pronounce it. And I'm going to be giving you my reaction to the fights which went down. As always, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a like. It's greatly appreciated. Comment down below, let me know who you thought won the Johnson versus Malarkey fight. I know it's quite a disputed one online. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Let's get straight into it. All in all, a fun night of fights. I think there were some really boring fights, to be fair, but there were some really fun, intriguing matchups, some really interesting sort of tactical bouts as well. But we're going to kick it all off in the main event. Rafael Fiziev, we're going to call him. He knocks out Rafael Dos Anjos in the fifth and final round, 18 seconds into it. It was insane. Fiziev, for me, he looked like the much better of the two on the feet, especially early on in the fight. I think the first 3 rounds, I think the majority of people are scoring it like 3-0 to Fiziev or 2-1 Fiziev, but it wasn't all too competitive on the feet in certain scenarios, because I feel like Dos Anjos at times was doing well when he was able to put pressure on Fiziev and push him back towards the fence, but he wasn't able to do that all too often, and a lot of the time I felt like Dos Anjos was just sitting in boxing range and kickboxing range with Fiziev, and Fiziev was just the much quicker of the two, and he was able to get off multiple combinations at a time. Dos Anjos did land some of his shots as well. The first round was extremely close. I think the third was pretty close as well, because some of the clinch scenarios for Dos Anjos, but Fiziev having some of the more eye-catching moments, in my opinion. Towards the end of the third round, it did look like Fiziev was, sort of slowing down, and Dos Anjos was starting to pick up on that, and he was starting to come forward a lot more and bring the action to Fiziev. I think a lot of the time that Dos Anjos was waiting on Fiziev, it was when he was kind of losing the fight. I felt like a lot of the times in the boxing range, especially Dos Anjos would wait on Fiziev at times, and Fiziev would pick him apart. But yeah, like I said, when Dos Anjos came forward, he looked like the much better fighter, and after round 4, Fiziev looked really sort of drained and fatigued, and it kind of gave you flashbacks to the Bobby Green fight, which was, going into it, I think people looked at Fiziev looking like he was going to clean the floor with Bobby Green, and that just didn't happen. It was a very competitive fight from start to finish, and Fiziev somehow came out in the 5th round. He looked fresh all of a sudden. He was bouncing on his feet, and he hit Dos Anjos with this. He came in orthodox, but switched on the way in and hit him with a left hook, which was really clean. And it was like really reminiscent of the Jorge Gamebred Masvidal knockout over Darren Till in, was it in London not too long ago, 4 years back maybe. But yeah, very similar in the way, they switched the stance. I guess you could say technically, I think Fiziev's looked a lot cleaner. But the Darren Till one had a bit of a stiffer knockout, so people are probably going to rate that one a bit higher. But I think we learned a lot about Fiziev in this fight. A lot of takeaways. I think at times, well, to be fair, coming into the fight, I was going to put out a prediction video, and I was going to pick Dos Anjos because I didn't think that Fiziev could put together a game plan to really beat Dos Anjos for 5 rounds. For me, I thought Fiziev would have to be a lot more on the front foot and look to push Dos Anjos back. I feel like if you look at previous opponents who have beat Dos Anjos, I think barring the Eddie Alvarez and sort of Khabib fight, I think a lot of people have a lot of success when they back Dos Anjos up. And they're able to put high volume on him, because I think he likes to dictate the pace of the fight. And I thought Fiziev would struggle to be on the front foot for like 3 rounds and put a high pace on Dos Anjos. But he didn't do that. And I thought he was really impressive. I think for Dos Anjos, some of the best shots he landed were probably the body kicks, which were really good, by the way, because Fiziev doing that sort of matrix lean back and just kind of left the body open, and Dos Anjos really took advantage of it. But Fiziev, so impressive in this fight. Kind of similar to Adesanya in a way that his takedown defense against the cage is just so lights out. He's so solid. Dos Anjos multiple occasions had Fiziev up against the fence. I think he may have got one takedown, but Fiziev was only down for less than a minute and he was back up on his feet. I thought he was super impressive. And I think for the weight class, despite being, a tad on the short side, he's definitely physical enough for this weight class. And that was something I always kind of questioned about him. For me, I think Dos Anjos went in probably trying to play a bit of a long game, looking to wear out Fiziev. And obviously, it did kind of come to fruition, but it didn't quite play out the way he wanted it to. I think this is probably the end of Dos Anjos, to be honest. I think we'll still see him around in fights, but that title run he was trying to get back on, I think that's over. I think you look at him and the age he's at now, 37. I think it's going to be hard for him to get, a rebound fight and then another 3 or 4 fights to get that title shot. And it's disappointing because if he could have got past Fiziev, I think there was a lot of matchups where you would argue he's very competitive in them. I'm not saying that he would win 100%, but definitely super competitive. I think the only fight I really hated him in was the Makhachev fight. I think Makhachev would have ragdolled him, to be honest. But yes, it's kind of sad. I would have loved to have seen him go on another run. But it's good news because we get to see a new contender in this division who has some of the best striking in a division, if not the best stand-up in this division. I think there's a lot of matchups which I would favour Fiziev in, especially towards the top end. And I'd love to see a Justin Gaethje fight. I think Fiziev versus Gaethje would be a hell of a matchup. I don't know how it'd end, but I feel it'd be fucking wild. But yeah, I once again, the only matchup I don't like for Fiziev is Makhachev, just because of that wrestling. I do think, yes, his takedown defense was super solid against defense tonight, but I think there are levels to the wrestling, and I just feel like Makhachev is one of the most elite at the moment in the whole of MMA. I am excited though. It was an impressive win for Fiziev. Definitely a fight which was kind of going in a bit of a boring way at times, but he was able to have those moments where he just light up the crowd with some super combination and super impressive. We move on to the co-main event, which was an absolute snooze fest, and I was really disappointed. I think Caio and Petrosian both had a chance in this fight, a co-main event on a fight night with a super stacked main event. You knew eyeballs were going to be on this event and you had a chance to kind of steal the show. People who are maybe not as hardcore, a bit more on the casual side, might have just tuned in for the main event, might have got an early sort of sneak peek of the co-main. Super disappointed and, for them, I guess. I'm not that disappointed that I watched the fight. It is what it is. But for them, I think they had a moment where they could have really got some star power and really sort of, sent them flying in that middleweight division. Caio does get the unanimous decision in the end in a fight which he looked pretty dominant in. I think in the striking rounds, yes, Petrosian is always going to be dangerous, but he didn't really land anything too significant, if anything at all, to be honest. And when Caio was able to get to the ground, it was very one-sided at times. The one thing I did highlight in this fight, which I really loved, was that where Caio took the Kimura lock and he was able to transition to the back from there. I thought that was a beautiful bit of grappling, which probably didn't get the applause I guess it deserved. But yeah, like I said, I think both of these guys coming in, obviously contender series sort of guys, already had a bit of a name for themselves, but they weren't the household names yet. And I think if they would have put in a performance of the night sort of fight here, it would have sent them flying, and the ranked opponent for sure would have been next. However, Caio Borraio, I guess it's pronounced something like that. He has called out Dricus du Plessis from South Africa. He wants to get it on. I think that's a great fight. Honestly, I do feel like the wild sort of side of du Plessis not only might bring out a bit of a more fast-paced style in Kaio, but I think it's going to leave openings as well for that grappling, which looks extremely dangerous at times. So I'd be really interested to see that fight, and I hope it does happen. But I'm going to move on because that fight wasn't too interesting. We move on now to Said Nurmagomedov, who is not related to Khabib. I wasn't too sure. I mean, there's so many Nurmagomedovs at the moment, you know, Usman and Umar. Two really great fighters playing a trade in MMA right now, one in Bellator and one in the UFC. But for Said, you know, coming in, seen him a few times before, but never really took too much away from him. I thought this was a really decent matchup against Douglas Silva de Andrade. Obviously a guy who has probably got the best body in MMA at the moment. Maybe Sexy Armor can take him for a run for his money, but it was a fight at times where I thought Said looked dominant, and then at other times it looked like he was making it a lot harder for himself. I think there's definitely a fighter in there who can give a lot of people trouble. I think a lot of people probably will compare him to Usman and Umar with, you know, the sort of kicking game off that front leg he's got, so explosive as well. But for me, I actually think he's a bit more like Zabit. Maybe like the next coming. Obviously, now Zabit has left. I think he's going to be a doctor or something like that. So that's an interesting one. But for me, Said reminds me of him a lot. I think the kicking game, first of all, the sort of kicks that he throws, a lot of spinning stuff. I loved the front leg work, the way he was able to go low and then high, real, you know, without bringing the foot down, just rechambering it. I thought that was brilliant. But yeah, like Zabit, I thought his volume was very similar at times where, you know, you get a bit overzealous. I guess you could say he'd be throwing like 2 or 3 spinning kicks in a row, and it's like, all right, calm down. You know, you got another 2 rounds after this. But he did look tired towards the end as well, and that gave me Zabit vibes. I don't know what it is about this guy. I guess the crafty wrestling as well. You know, obviously standing for so long and then all of a sudden just throwing in a takedown here and there. Bit different to Zabit. Zabit loved the trip, to be fair. But this guy does remind me of him a lot. And I think in the, what is he, in the bantamweight? I think in the bantamweight division, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Zabit was at 145. A bantamweight, I think there are some interesting matchups for him. I'd love to see him get a ranked guy next. How likely that is, I'm not too sure. If what's his name? Is it Kenny? The guy who lost to Dominic Cruz not too long back. He comes out to Slim Thugger, motherfucker. But yeah, I'd love to see them go at it because I think his sort of wrestling game would probably give Said some problems. I think the pressure that he brings, but ultimately I do think it would be, you know, a really good matchup for Said. In a way, I think there's a lot of openings on the way in for him, especially with just the kicks and some of the strikes he throws. So that'd be an interesting one. But only if he's still in the top 15. I think he is ranked, but I don't know how to get the rankings up on the UFC website. I need to learn that for next time, most probably. But yeah, I was super impressed with Said. Can't wait to see him perform again. Hopefully it's a bit of a better opponent who can push him a little bit more, because I think it was maybe a bit too easy for him at times, and he did kind of let the fight pass him by, I guess you could say. We'll move on now to Chase Sherman. Fucking hell, I've gone a bit dry here. Let me get a drink of water. Chase Sherman against Jared Vanderaa. I thought this fight was an interesting one. For me, I'm a big Chase Sherman fan. It was sad the first time he got cut from the UFC, and since he's come back, you know, he's kind of been hit and miss. But I think he's a really talented fighter, and, you know, I think there are some massive flaws in his game, but he's super fun to watch. He's never in a boring fucking fight. I love him at heavyweight. I think he always puts on a good show for the fans, win, lose or draw. But at the start of this fight, I was like, damn, he's kind of upgraded the offense a bit here, because I think the first round at least was the best Chase Sherman I've ever seen. I thought the way he wasn't just looking for the knockout like Vanderaa. I think Vanderaa got caught looking for the knockout too much tonight, swinging loopy punches, and I think that cost him. I'll talk about that in a bit. But the three-tier attack, as I'm going to call it, for Chase Sherman, the way he was able to attack the legs early in the first round was brilliant. I thought it really took Bandera off his game for a while. And something you don't see too much in heavyweight MMA at the moment is some of the body shots. You know, he's mixing it to the head and the body really well. I think, you know, especially out in the open, I think against the clinch, obviously the body shots, well, in the clinch along the fence, the body shots are there, but I think the way he was getting them in the open, the left hook to the body, I think he threw a couple straights at times, even a jab to the body. I thought it was brilliant, and he mixed it up really well, and he was really, you know, active on offense without being like stupid, ridiculous, and burning himself out. I thought he did a really good job. In the second round, I don't know what really happened. He kind of abandoned the leg kick. I saw Bandera start going towards his. I remember one being checked, which sounded really nasty. It was a great check by Sherman. So I can't say his name at the moment. But the second round was definitely Bandera's, and, you know, the jab of Bandera was definitely, you know, causing Sherman a lot of problems. I kind of noticed that, well, the majority of the time he was slipping off the line. You know, he's slipping to the left, and I was thinking, if I'm sitting this, Bandera's going to see it now in a minute, and he's going to throw a right hook. But he didn't. And Sherman, you know, he did kind of get back towards the end of the round, but really didn't look like himself there for a while. After such an impressive first round, I was kind of disappointed. I think Bandera was doing the better work as well for large majorities in the third round, and, you know, he got caught with a straight, and Chase finished him off like he was a pinball up against the octagon fence. It was pretty, it was a bit of an alarming one, I guess you could say, for the referee. He was just kind of doing a bit of a Herb Dean, didn't want to get involved. I think at times Bandera, you know, really took advantage of Chase probably fatiguing, and I think at times he's probably the more willing to take damage to, you know, give out damage. And I think that really suited him in the fight, because he was able to press the action and give a lot of problems to Chase, who looked so good in the first round, in my opinion. However, I do think that technique kind of came out on top here. I think Bandera was very loopy at times, and, you know, the jab was brilliant, but he wasn't really backing it up with the straights. He was very loopy and looking for the knockout at times. And I think Chase, you know, throwing the more cleaner and technical punches, you know, I think it paid off for him in the end. In a fight which was going so well, and then all of a sudden went so downhill, in my opinion, I think it was a great sort of, you know, comeback in a way for Chase. And I'm excited to see what he does next, because I'm a big fan. I love his sort of, you know, character in there. I think he always puts on a show, and, you know, it's always appreciated on my end. And I think defensively, if he can figure a few things out, I think he could be a problem. I really do, because I think his offense is one of the in the position that he's in the heavyweight rankings. He's one of the best offensive fighters in that sort of area, in my opinion, anyway. I just think the defense sometimes lets him down. So we'll have to wait and see. Zahabi, he beats Ricky Turcios, is it? The Ultimate Fighter winner, in a fight which it would have been a snooze fest had Turcios not kept waking me up by fucking shouting random shit in the fight. But for me, I think Zahabi put on a master game plan here. I think Ricky did a lot of shit which wasn't needed. I think he moved a lot of the time for no point, you know, moving for the sake of moving. A lot of switch dances, a lot of feints which weren't really setups for anything. I think he threw a lot of kicks. I'd love to see the number of kicks he threw in this fight, but a lot of them were just straight up in the air, and nothing really bothered Zahabi too much in this fight. I think he got caught with a left hook maybe early on, which kind of reddened his cheek underneath the right eye. But other than that, I can't really remember him being hit with anything too significant. I think he did a great job defensively on the back foot when Ricky was coming forward. You know, anything Ricky was throwing, it was kind of being parried or blocked. And, you know, he was also looking for the counter shots a lot as well. You know, you'd see Ricky maybe go with the right straight and he'd go with the left hook. And a lot of times as well, I felt like when Ricky was resetting, he was then applying the pressure on him. And I thought it was a brilliant game plan by him. And I was super disappointed with Ricky. I'm not too sure what happened, but next time I hope he can put together a better performance, because I haven't really. I know I've watched him fight, but I can't recall seeing him all too much. And it'd be nice to see him get a run, because a lot of people talk very highly of him, and I don't think that was his best performance by far. And be interesting to see what he can maybe do in the future, because the bantamweight division is a very, very stacked division, and a couple of defeats can really set you back a far way. So he's going to have to need a big comeback to get back on the winning tracks, but we'll have to wait and see. I think the fight of the night, deservedly, Michael Johnson versus Jamie Mullarkey. I asked at the start of the video just to let me know in the comments down below who you thought won the fight. A very intriguing one. And I think the scoring probably comes down to the first round. I think in the second round, I think it's fair to say that Mullarkey clearly took it. I think he was pouring out a lot of damage onto Michael Johnson, especially in the clinch, where I was really impressed with Mullarkey, giving me some Anderson Silva throwbacks in the Muay Thai plum. I think he did a lot of great work there, and clearly took the round from me. The third round, it was like a different Michael Johnson. It was like, if we had seen this Michael Johnson from the start, I think he would have hands down won the fight. He was, he wasn't loading up as much. He was a lot lighter on the feet, and he was popping Mullarkey with the jab, and he won it. But he won that round with the jab alone. I just felt he was a lot looser and a lot less tense. And I was really impressed with him in the third round. But it all comes down to the first round, where both guys kind of scored knockdowns. I guess Mullarkey's is a knockdown as well. Obviously wobbled Johnson. I'm not too sure if Johnson falls over then goes into a takedown, or if he shoots for a bad takedown straight away. But either way, both guys were hurt bad, I guess you could say, in both rounds. I think if you was probably to say which one was hurt worse, I'd probably lean towards Jamie Mullarkey being probably the most hurt. So therefore, you'd probably scored a round for Johnson. However, I did think that early on in the round, Mullarkey was doing a lot of the better work, and I felt like he started probably the quicker of the two. I felt, obviously, he comes from the same camp as Volkanovski, and I could see certain similarities, not a whole lot, but the front hand, the feints, and I was impressed for quite a bit with him. And to be honest, I was impressed coming out the fight with him. Super excited to see his next fight. But for me, I think it was such a tight round, and I wasn't scoring it. And to be honest, if I was going back and score it, I'll probably see it a different way. But when I was watching it, I'm going to put my balls out on the table, because I've seen a lot of people saying it the other way. I felt like it was a Jamie Mullarkey round. I think, yes, the middle sector was bad for him. But I think he had the first sector where he was able to land some damaging shots, obviously not as to the level of the Michael Johnson one, but also towards the end of the round where I thought he landed another damaging shot, was getting the better of the two. So I'm going to go, I thought Mullarkey won. And I hate to see it with Johnson as well, and I hope he stays in UFC, because I think his record's really shoddy, isn't it? It's like one of those BJ Penn ones, but he's one of these guys who, when he loses, it's only for certain reasons. Normally, maybe it's a war. He either loses against a grappler, or he loses because the other guy's just a lot better. There's not too many people who can go in on the feet with Michael Johnson, and if they're not up to par, he'll put them away. And I was thinking about it as well. Michael Johnson, when you look back through his career, the level of fighters he's fought, and the beatings he's taken as well. Did he fight Barboza? I feel like he fought Barboza as well now, just thinking of it. But I remember the Justin Gaethje one, which I was talking about on the broadcast, which that was a bad one. Obviously, he landed some damaging blows on Gaethje as well, but it was bad for Johnson, and he's taken a lot of damage when you think of it, because the Nurmagomedov fight was before that. Obviously, the amazing win over Dustin Poirier in one of the shock knockouts, and I love the celebration from that fight. But the Nurmagomedov fight, despite being subbed, Khabib was beating on him for ages in that fight. Then the Gaethje fight, he got beat on bad. Then Alkins got sub. Wendy, he's lost quite a few by knockout, I feel like. Yes, Josh Emmett knockout. Yeah, well, for me, I do think damage is a big factor in his career, and he's taken a lot of it. And maybe he's never going to get to the stage where he can maybe get into the rankings again. But for me, I think he's a solid fighter to stick around in the UFC rankings, because I think if you beat him, you're either someone who's just on the level or better in a certain area, or you're a really good fighter. I think Mullarkey is a really good fighter, and I think we're going to see him in some super fun matchups coming up here in the future. But as always, guys, I'm kind of running out of things to say, but I really did enjoy doing this video. I really enjoyed the fights last night, despite having some boring ones. I was kind of shocked on the early prelims. I made sure I tuned in for the early prelims because one of my favourite fighters, Ronnie Lawrence, was fighting, and I was super shocked the way that fight played out. Obviously, some big wins for David Onama and Kennedy Nzechukwu, Cody Brodage as well. That was a big win for him. But yeah, as always, guys, let me know what you did think of the Johnson versus Mullarkey fight, because I'm kind of interested to know if any of you are still watching. Just let me know who you thought won that fight. As always, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment like I said, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm going to be doing my picks for the Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez fight night, which is coming up next weekend. A lot of real fun fights on that card, especially on the prelims as well, so I might have to do full card picks. But yeah, until tomorrow or Tuesday, Wednesday, have a nice day, have a nice rest of your weekend. I hope you enjoyed the fights, and I'll see you soon.